During his state visit to Mombasa last month, President Museveni took a ride on Kenya's standard gauge railway between Mombasa and Nairobi, commonly known as the Madaraka Express. For a journey of 480 kilometers that used to take 15 hours on the meter gauge railway built by the British colonial administration, travel time on the standard gauge railway built and financed by the Chinese came down to 4 hours.
It will reduce the cost to Ugandan investors and to Uganda itself. It will improve efficiency of Mombasa port, which is to the benefit of our people. But it will also increase volumes, because by reducing cost and becoming more efficient, you're also increasing trade, you're also increasing investment, and by extension, you're increasing job opportunities for both Kenyans and Ugandans.
And on the other side, we are preparing to build a line from Kampala to Malaba, and eventually a line to Kasese to link with the Congo border, and a line to Nimule to link with the South Sudan. So that line will link up with the heartland of Africa eventually. Now, that will cut the cost of transport drastically. I hope you have the figures. But that container you are talking about will now cost less in terms of transport than it has been.
Museveni's trip was seen as an endorsement of a lofty dream to connect the region's capitals with a seamless railway network. However, this was hinged on the completion of the standard gauge railway from the Kenyan town of Naivasha to the border at Malaba, where Uganda would pick it up from to Kampala. But fears are abounding that this may not take off soon. During his state visit to the Chinese capital Beijing this week to attend the Second Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation, President Kenyatta and his team had hoped to secure funding for construction of the SGR connecting Naivasha to Malaba, but the plan fell through. According to Kenyan media, China declined to extend the additional credit facility after the government failed to provide sufficient proof that they can pay back loans for the remaining sections. Uganda's Transport Minister Monica Zubantege told NTV by telephone she was not aware of the recent developments.
I have not read it, I have not received the official information, so really I can't comment. I knew they had gone to China, but beyond that I have not yet got any feedback. But I'll talk to my counterpart on Monday, because we share.
Sources reveal that at the heart of the matter is China's cold feet towards Kenya and Uganda's capacity to pay the loans given their respective debt stock and the bleak projections of repayment. Kenya's public debt stock currently stands at a staggering 186 trillion Uganda shillings and is expected to hit 223 trillion Uganda shillings by 2020 if loan requests already in the pipeline are approved. On the other hand, Uganda's debt stock stands at 41 trillion shillings against a GDP size of 96 trillion shillings or $26 billion. According to Ramadhan Gobi, an economist, the recent developments show that Uganda and Kenya are trying to punch above their weight.
I think we front-loaded a lot the oil at the beginning with the expectation that the oil would come by 2020. And now 2020 is just 1 year away, and there is uncertainty. There is actually now, it's confirmed, the oil will not be there by 2020. We are trying to look at the 2022. It's also a bit uncertain. So real bookmakers are saying it will be actually around 2025. Now, the Chinese have already given us a lot of money in the expectation that we shall be able to repay by 2020, beginning 2020. When you look at our interest payments and even paying amortization, paying part of the debt, it's quite massive. We are already paying 15% of the budget. Actually, not the budget, of the revenue. as interest. So I think Uganda, Kenya, and other countries in the region, we became overly overambitious. Having infrastructure is very good. All of these countries, of course, have huge infrastructure gaps, but our leaders went on an overdrive when especially there was that shift from the neoliberal kind of arrangement in our economies to back to the planning model.
According to the 2019-2020 budget framework paper, a lion's share of the resource envelope will go to debt repayment, which was allocated 2.9 trillion shillings, the second largest share of the budget.
The planning model kind of brought back these ambitions of wanting to have all of these projects done in the shortest time possible. And to me, I think this is causing some kind of now distress in the region. Not only Kenya, not only Uganda, many other countries. In Uganda, the 2019-20 budget, which is coming, it's almost 10 trillion shillings as debt, both domestic and foreign. So when you have a budget of about less than 40 trillion and 10 trillion is debt, you're already bordering really inability to do what you would want to do. So the fiscal space is narrowing. The ability of government to borrow more without crowding out private sector is narrowing. So that's why they are going slow on some of now the projects which they were very, very at the beginning ambitious about.
Uganda and Kenya first agreed to construct the standard gauge railway in 2008, but the deal was only concretized in 2012. The two governments were then tasked by China's Exim Bank to agree on a seamless connecting train from Mombasa to Kampala and later to Kigali for it to make economic sense. Currently, 90% of Ugandan-bound cargo goes through Mombasa port at the Indian Ocean and is transported by road. It takes a trailer truck an average of 5 days to move from Mombasa to Kampala. The remaining proposed sections are the 266 kilometers line from Naivasha to Kisumu port at Lake Victoria, tagged to a cost of 13 trillion shillings, and the 107-kilometer line from Kisumu to Malaba, which will cost 6 trillion shillings. The first section of Uganda's proposed standard gauge railway line, about 273 kilometers, is expected to run from Malaba to Kampala. It is expected to cost 7 trillion shillings. The cost has for a while been subject of debate, including a comparative cost review by the Parliamentary Infrastructure Committee, which concluded that it was expensive for the country to afford after benchmarking on Ethiopia's railway line. At a news conference last November, both Azuba and Finance Minister Matia Kasaija downplayed reports that Uganda was shelving plans for the SGR owing to uncertainty over funding, but both revealed that they were not sure when China would agree to release the financing.
So how soon we will go down to sign is what I don't know, because, you know, beggars have not, we don't determine. So, but we are pushing them. The sooner that we can allow us to sign, the better. So, but I cannot stand here and tell you that they are calling me next month. I cannot, because I don't determine their rate, their speed of work. It's like if you went to the bank to look for money, to borrow money. You can't say, you can hardly tell the bank and say, hey, can I come and sign right now? No, you know. They may be making certain calculations which we may not know.
In making a case for the SGR, the government has argued that the new railway line is expected to reduce both the cargo transit times and costs by half. If the current developments are anything to go by, Uganda's fate to build the much-vaunted standard gauge railway for now lies in the hands of its neighboring state.